Have you ever stood at the edge of your greatest breakthrough, only to realize that the thing holding you back isn't the world, but what you think you already know? In a forgotten dojo deep within the mountains of Japan, a young warrior discovers that true mastery doesn't begin with skill. It begins with emptiness. This is the path of Shoshin, the beginner's mind. And today, you walk it with him.
In the cold silence of the northern mountains, a narrow dirt path curled upward like a question waiting for an answer. Snow drifted from the sky in slow, lazy circles, but beneath the falling white, a lone figure climbed steadily, a young swordsman named Ren. Ren had traveled for days to reach this place. His village elder had told him that if he truly wished to become a master, he must seek out the legendary teacher known simply as Sensei Kaigen. A man said to understand not just the movement of the blade, but the movement of the mind itself. Rumors whispered he was a hermit, a sage, a warrior beyond comparison, but no one had truly seen him in many years. As Ren climbed, his heart carried a storm of emotions, pride, determination, and a thirst for greatness. He had fought dozens of battles, won tournaments, and earned praise. Yet something inside him whispered that he had reached a ceiling. Every technique he practiced felt stiff. Every improvement felt smaller. His dream of mastery was blurring. At the top of the mountain sat a wooden gate, simple and old. Beyond it, the dojo, still and silent, as though waiting for him. Ren stepped inside. An elderly man with a shaved head sat cross-legged near the center, eyes closed, unmoving like carved stone. Ren bowed deeply. "Master Kaigen," Ren said, his voice echoing slightly in the vast room. "I have traveled far to learn the deepest secrets of the sword. Please teach me." The old man slowly opened one eye, then the other. Silence stretched. "You already know too much," Kaigen finally replied. Ren blinked, confused. "Master, I came to learn. I am ready." Kaigen simply pointed to a ceramic cup on the mat. "Sit," he said. Ren obeyed without question. Kaigen lifted a teapot and began to pour warm tea into Ren's cup. At first, Ren watched politely until the cup filled to the brim. But Kaigen did not stop pouring. Tea spilled over the edges, flowing across the mat. "Master, the cup is overflowing," Ren exclaimed. Kaigen set the pot down, his calm, ageless eyes locked onto Ren. "And so are you," Ren's breath caught. "How can I teach you when your mind is already full of beliefs, pride, and assumptions about what you think mastery is? A cup that's already full cannot receive anything new." Ren lowered his eyes, a sting of embarrassment touching him. "Then, what must I do?" Kaigen tapped the cup with his finger. "Empty it." The words hung in the air like a bell's echo. Ren felt the weight of them. He had mastered dozens of stances, hundreds of strikes, yet here he was, being told that all of it was too much. Kaigen arose slowly, the movement graceful despite age. He said, "You seek mastery of the sword, but the sword is only an extension of the mind. If your mind is crowded, your blade will be clumsy. If your mind is rigid, your technique will break like snapped bamboo." Ren swallowed. Then, "Teach me to empty my mind." Kaigen turned, beginning to walk toward the back of the dojo. "Shoshin," he said gently, "is the way of the beginner's mind. A beginner sees possibilities. A master sees only the next step. but the one who stops learning. He paused. He sees nothing. Ren stood, determination filling him once more. I am ready, Sensei. Kaigen stopped walking and looked back at him. We shall see. He motioned for Ren to follow. They stepped into the outdoor courtyard behind the dojo, a wide open space surrounded by bamboo, with a stone water basin and a scattering of fallen leaves dancing in the winter wind. Kaigen handed Ren a simple wooden sword. Ren lifted it instinctively into a perfect stance, sharp and polished from years of practice. Kaigen shook his head. Drop the stance. Ren hesitated. But this is the form I have trained since childhood, and that is why you must drop it. Ren forced himself to lower the blade. Kaigen approached and gently adjusted Ren's shoulders, elbows, and grip. The stance felt strange, too relaxed, too open, too vulnerable. This feels wrong, Ren said quietly. Kaigen smiled. Good. If it felt right, you would be repeating the past, but you came here to move beyond it. Ren felt heat rise in his chest, not anger, but frustration with himself. He realized just how attached he was to his old methods, how tightly he clung to what he thought was correct. Kaigen placed a hand over Ren's chest. You carry tension here, he said. Fear of being wrong, fear of losing what you built. That is the greatest barrier of all. Ren lowered his gaze. I didn't know. That is the beginning, Kaigen replied. Awareness. He stepped back. Now strike. Ren inhaled, raised the wooden sword and swung, but the movement felt stiff and awkward. He tried again, and again. His frustration grew. Nothing felt natural. Kaigen watched patiently. Do you see? He asked. When you let go of what you were, you do not immediately become what you wish to be. There is a space in between, a place of uncertainty. Most people run from it, but that space is where transformation happens. Ren felt sweat gathered despite the cold air. Kaigen continued, his voice soft but powerful. To walk the path of mastery, you must be willing to feel foolish, to stumble, to be a beginner again. This is Shoshin, the mind free of expectation, free of ego, free of the illusion of perfection. Ren's grip tightened, not in defiance, but in awakening. Something inside him shifted, a recognition that the mastery he sought was not at the peak of the mountain, but at its base. Kaigen gestured toward the bamboo trees. Tomorrow, you will train from sunrise, but today, your lesson is simple. Ren looked up. Empty your cup, he said. Tonight, reflect. In your mind, what must be poured out? Which beliefs no longer serve you? What must you release to make space for the warrior you wish to become? Ren bowed deeply, this time with sincerity instead of pride. I understand, Sensei. Kaigen smiled. No, he said gently, you have only begun. And as the mountain winds whispered through the bamboo, Ren's true journey, the path to mastery, had finally opened.
Night settled over the mountain like a heavy quilt, its silence so complete that even the wind seemed to move with caution. Ren sat alone in the small wooden room that Kaigen had given him. A simple futon, a candle, and a window overlooking the moonlit courtyard. Nothing more. The simplicity felt strange, uncomfortable, almost confrontational. Ren stared at the flickering candle flame, Kaigen's words echoing in his mind like a riddle that refused to loosen its grip. Empty your cup. At first, he thought it meant surrendering his pride. Then he wondered if it meant abandoning his techniques.
But as the hours passed, Ren began to understand that it was deeper than that. It wasn't only about what he knew, it was about how tightly he clung to it. He closed his eyes and took a slow breath. Images surfaced. His victories, his praises, the recognition he earned from his village, the fear of losing all of it. And beneath those images was a quieter fear, the fear that maybe, without the skills he had built, he was nothing. Ren's chest tightened. That was the cup he carried, filled to the brim with insecurity disguised as confidence. A soft tap on the wooden frame startled him. He looked up to see Kaigen standing at the door, lantern in hand. "Still awake," the master said. "I am reflecting, Sensei." Kaigen stepped inside and lit a second candle, the warm glow expanding the room's shadows. "Good. Reflection sharpens the mind more than any blade." Ren lifted his eyes. "Sensei, how do I let go of what I have spent my whole life building?" Kaigen sat beside him, folding his legs with deliberate calm. "By understanding that letting go does not mean losing. It means making space for what is yet to come." He picked up Ren's wooden sword and placed it across his lap. "You grasp the sword tightly because you fear it will slip from your hands. But a master knows the grip must change depending on the moment. Too tight, and the blade becomes rigid. Too loose, and it becomes useless. The mind is the same." Ren absorbed every word. He felt them shaping him, not through force, but through clarity. Kaigen handed him the wooden sword. "Come, it is time to face the darkness." Ren frowned. "At this hour?" Kaigen chuckled softly. "Mastery does not follow the sun." They stepped outside into the cold night. The courtyard was silvered by moonlight. The bamboo swayed as though bowing in greeting. Ren felt the chill bite his skin, but beneath it, anticipation stirred. Kaigen stood a few steps away. "Tonight, we begin with what you fear most, uncertainty." He blew out the lantern, plunging the courtyard into near-total darkness. Ren blinked, his heartbeat quickened. "Sensei, I can barely see." "Good! Now show me a simple strike." Ren raised the wooden sword. His body hesitated. His muscles tensed. He swung, but the movement was shaky, hesitant, nothing like the precise strikes he used to deliver in full daylight. Kaigen watched, his expression unreadable. Again, Ren struck, and again, and again. Each swing felt more unstable than the last. Frustration rose in him, bubbling like hot water. "I can't focus, I can't—" "That," Kaigen interrupted firmly, "is the point." Ren lowered the sword, panting lightly. "How can I learn when I can't even see?" Kaigen walked toward him and tapped Ren's forehead with a gentle knuckle. "Because you rely too much on your eyes. You trust what is familiar rather than what is true. Darkness reveals your dependence. Without sight, you must learn to feel, to sense, to become aware of the moment without clinging to technique." Ren swallowed the lump in his throat. Kaigen continued, his voice steady. "Mastery is not the perfection of skill. It is the liberation from needing perfection." Ren felt those words sink into him like roots. They hurt, but they also grounded him. "Again," Kaigen commanded. Ren lifted the sword and swung. Still awkward, still uncertain, but this time He didn't resist the awkwardness. He didn't fight the uncertainty. He allowed the strike to be imperfect. And for the first time, something inside him loosened. Kaigan nodded. Better. Ren blinked. But the strike was worse. Ah, Kaigan said with a small smile. Yet your mind was clearer. Ren stood still for a moment, the realization washing over him. His perfectionism, the source of his pride, was also his chain. You see, Kaigan said softly, Shoshin is not a technique. It is a state of openness, a willingness to experience the world without the filter of judgment. Ren whispered, Beginner's mind. Yes, the beginner does not fear mistakes. The beginner does not cling to old ways. The beginner is free. Ren felt something shift inside him again, subtle but undeniable. Kaigan motioned toward the bamboo. Listen. Ren closed his eyes. The wind brushed the leaves. The bamboo creaked softly. The earth hummed under his feet. Kaigan's voice floated through the night. This is the world beyond your mind. When you stop thinking, you begin to feel. And when you begin to feel, your sword will move with the world, not against it. Ren raised the wooden sword, this time eyes closed. He inhaled, then exhaled, and swung. Not perfectly, not beautifully, but naturally, free of the tension he carried before. Kaigan nodded approvingly. You are beginning to empty the cup. Ren lowered his sword, breath steady. Sensei, I didn't know training could feel like this. Kaigan smiled. That is because you have spent your life chasing mastery. Now you are experiencing it. Ren stood in silence, humbled. The moonlight washed over him. For the first time, he felt lighter, as if layers of invisible armor were falling away. Kaigan placed a hand on his shoulder. Rest. Tomorrow your training changes. Ren looked up. How? Kaigan's eyes gleamed. Tomorrow you will learn to see without seeing and strike without striking. Ren's pulse quickened, not with fear, but with wonder. The path of Shoshin had truly begun.
The morning sun crept over the mountaintop, spilling golden light across the courtyard where Ren stood, still replaying Kaigan's final words from last night. Tomorrow, you will learn to see without seeing and strike without striking. He wasn't sure what that meant, but for the first time since arriving at the monastery, the uncertainty didn't scare him. It stirred his curiosity. Footsteps approached. Kaigan emerged from the hall, carrying 2 wooden swords. His posture was relaxed, but his presence carried the weight of a man who had mastered his own silence. Good, Kaigan said. You are awake early. Ren bowed. I wish to continue, Sensei. Kaigan handed him a sword. Then today, we leave behind everything you believe a sword should be. Ren frowned. What do you mean? Kaigan motioned for him to follow. They walked to a hidden part of the monastery, a narrow path leading into a grove of old cedar trees. The air here was colder, heavier, filled with the quiet authority of ages long gone. Kaigan stopped beneath a towering tree and looked upward. Tell me, Ren, what do you see? Ren followed his gaze. Trees, branches, light breaking through the leaves? Kaigan shook his head. You see shapes, outlines, form, but what do you truly perceive? Ren hesitated. I don't understand. Kaigan reached out and touched the bark of the nearest tree. A tree is not only what your eyes show you. It is strength held in silence, stillness masking life, roots you cannot see yet depend upon. He turned to Ren. A sword is the same. Ren held the wooden sword a little tighter. But a sword is for striking. Kaigan's eyes softened with patience. And that belief, Ren, is why your sword has been heavy all your life. He plucked a cedar leaf from the ground and placed it on Ren's palm. Strike this. Ren blinked. Sensei, it's just a leaf. Strike, Kaigan repeated. Ren swung the wooden sword downward, fast and sharp. The leaf fluttered away lazily, unharmed. Kaigan nodded. Again. Ren struck harder this time, slicing the air. Still, the leaf escaped with effortless grace. Frustration pricked him. This is impossible. Kaigan picked up the leaf and held it gently. The leaf survives because it does not resist. The leaf lives because it does not challenge force. The leaf flows. He dropped the leaf again. You, however, swing with intention to dominate, to overpower, to prove. That is not mastery. Ren lowered his sword slowly. So what must I do? Kaigan stepped behind him, guiding his hands into position. You must forget the idea of striking. Forget victory. Forget force. Then what am I trying to do? Connect, Kaigan whispered. Ren swallowed. Kaigan pointed to the falling leaf. Do not attack it. Do not chase it. Move with it. Ren took a breath. A deep one. The kind he never allowed himself during battles. The leaf drifted downward. Ren watched closely. Not its shape, not its edges, but its movement, its rhythm, the dance between gravity and air. He raised the sword, not with tension, but with ease. The leaf turned slightly. Ren moved. This time his sword didn't smash downward. It flowed, soft, effortless, and the wooden blade met the leaf with such gentle precision that it landed softly on the edge before sliding off. Kaigan smiled. That, he said, is the beginning of striking without striking. Ren stared at the leaf on the ground, stunned. I didn't even think. I just acted. Exactly, Kaigan's voice warmed. You were present. You were free. You allowed the world to move through you instead of trying to move the world. Ren's heartbeat quickened, not from exertion, but from revelation. It was so simple, yet so profound. Kaigan walked deeper into the grove. There is one more lesson for today. Ren followed. They reached a circular clearing where the stones formed a natural ring. Kaigan stepped inside. Ren, the master said calmly, attack me. Ren froze. Sensei, I can't. You must. But what if I... Kaigan interrupted with the faintest smirk. You won't. Ren inhaled sharply and took position. He launched forward, a clean, disciplined strike. Kaigan shifted a single inch. The sword missed cleanly. Ren tried again, faster this time. Kaigan stepped aside effortlessly, as if Ren's movements were written long before he made them. Ren's breaths grew heavier. His frustration threatened to rise again. Kaigan raised a hand. Stop, Ren did. You are returning to old habits, chasing victory,
forcing outcome, seeking validation in impact. He tapped Ren's chest with his finger. You still believe mastery is measured by what you can land, but true mastery is measured by what you no longer need to land. Ren closed his eyes. Let go. Loosen. Open. He exhaled. Kaigen nodded. Again, but this time, do not attack. Express. Ren stepped forward. No force, no pressure, no hunger for success. His strike flowed like water, calm, natural. Kaigen moved, and something miraculous happened. Ren didn't resist the shift. He followed it, moved with it, adapted without thought. For the first time, their movements intertwined, not as attacker and defender, but as two rivers merging briefly before parting again. Kaigen stepped back. That, he said, is Shoshin. Ren opened his eyes, breath steady, heart calm. Kaigen placed a hand on his shoulder. You are beginning to see without your eyes. You are beginning to strike without the desire to strike. You are beginning to understand the path you chose. Ren looked up at the sky above the grove, a patch of blue framed by towering trees. Sensei, he whispered, I never knew training could feel like awakening. Kaigen smiled gently. Most people never experience mastery because they cling to being masters. But you, Ren, you are finally learning to begin. Ren bowed deeply, not out of formality, but gratitude. Above them, a single cedar leaf detached from a high branch and drifted downward. Ren watched it fall. This time, he did not try to catch it. He simply observed, letting it land softly on the earth. And in that moment, he understood. Mastery is not an end. It is a return to wonder, to openness, to the freedom of not knowing. The path of Shoshin had not only begun, but it had finally taken root inside him.
Ren stood in the grove, watching the cedar leaf settle softly on the earth. The world around him seemed slower now, clearer, as if the mountain itself had drawn a long breath and finally exhaled. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Kaigen spoke, his voice calm and resonant. Ren, now you understand what most warriors spend a lifetime chasing. Ren looked up, his eyes softer than they had ever been. Sensei, I feel different, lighter, as if a weight I never realized I carried has been lifted. Kaigen nodded. That weight was not ignorance, but certainty. And certainty, Ren, is the heaviest chain a man can wear. They walked back toward the courtyard as the afternoon sun filtered through the trees. Each step felt grounded, purposeful, yet unburdened. Ren's heart beat steadily, not with anxiety, but with quiet clarity. As they reached the open courtyard, Kaigen stopped. Ren, there is one final lesson. Ren bowed, ready. I am listening, Sensei. Kaigen slowly unsheathed a real sword, a gleaming katana, its edge catching the sunlight with a faint shimmer. Ren had never seen Kaigen draw a weapon before. It felt sacred. Take it, Kaigen said. Ren hesitated. Sensei, I am not worthy. A gentle smile touched Kaigen's face. Worthiness is not granted. It is realized. Ren reached out and held the sword.
It was lighter than he expected, but carried a presence that felt immeasurable. "Now," Kaigen said, "attack me." Ren's heart jumped. "Sensei." "Not with force," Kaigen interrupted. "Not with intention. Not with the desire to prove anything." He stepped back, his posture serene. "Show me the Ren who learned from the falling leaf." Ren inhaled deeply, closing his eyes. He recalled the darkness training, the trembling uncertainty, the frustration, the realization, the leaf drifting, the clarity of movement without ego. He opened his eyes. The world felt transparent. Not empty, but unobstructed. Ren stepped forward, raising the katana, not as a weapon, but as an extension of the moment. His strike came not from muscle, but from presence, fluid, responsive, honest. Kaigen moved. Ren adjusted effortlessly. Their motions intertwined once more, but this time something shifted. Kaigen's movements grew slower, gentler, almost guiding Ren into the final steps of his evolution. Then, with one quiet exhale, Ren's blade stopped precisely at Kaigen's shoulder. A perfect, controlled, effortless halt. Kaigen smiled, deeply, proudly. "That," Kaigen whispered, "is mastery." Ren lowered the sword, breath trembling. "Sensei, I didn't even plan that strike. It just happened." Kaigen nodded. "That is because your sword is no longer driven by fear, or pride, or desire. It moves with what is, not what you want." He placed his hand over Ren's. "You have awakened the beginner's mind, not the mind of ignorance, but the mind free of illusion." Ren felt warmth spread through his chest. Kaigen stepped back and bowed, a full, respectful bow. Ren's breath caught in his throat. A master bowing to a student was rare, almost unheard of. "Ren," Kaigen said softly, "you did not come here to become a better warrior. You came here to become a clearer version of yourself. And today you have succeeded." Ren felt his eyes sting. He bowed deeply in return. "Sensei, what happens now?" Kaigen looked toward the mountain path, where the afternoon light painted golden strokes across the stones. "You return," he said, "not to show your strength, not to prove your growth. You return simply to live with awareness. And through that awareness, everything you touch, every person you meet, every battle you face, will transform." Ren swallowed. "Will you come with me?" Kaigen shook his head. "My place is here. Your place is wherever your presence brings clarity." Ren held the katana to his chest. "Thank you, Sensei, for everything." Kaigen smiled softly. "Remember, Ren, mastery is not a destination. It is a moment repeated 1,000 times with honesty." Ren turned toward the path that led down the mountain. The wind brushed his cheek like an old friend bidding farewell. With each step, he felt the world differently. Not as a battlefield, not as a puzzle to conquer, but as a flowing river moving in harmony with his breath. He reached the edge of the cliff and looked down at the valley below, where his village lay like a memory waiting to be reborn. Ren exhaled, not in tension, but in freedom. And as he descended the mountain, one truth finally rooted itself inside him. True mastery was not becoming extraordinary. It was becoming open. Open to learning. Open to change. Open to every moment as if seeing it for the very first time. And with that openness, Ren stepped into the world. Not as the warrior he once tried to be, but as the warrior he was always meant to become. The path of Shoshin had not ended. It had only just begun.